Hey everybody, today we're working on 2011 on the Pilot. We're going to do a timing kit. I use the Aisin brand. It's the OE factory equipment, high quality bearings from Japan. Comes with everything you need. It even comes with a really cool instruction booklet for all the timing marks and everything, torque specs, all of that. The timing belt, water pump, your tensioner. Tensioner bearing, an arm assembly, and probably let's see, what is this? It's probably an idler pulley for the belt, and of course the sticker. Never forget the sticker so that the next mechanic knows when it's been replaced. But this Aisin kit is excellent. It makes things really easy. Let's see. That was for the Saturn view. Let's see this one. This one is for the 3.7 liter V6, okay, and 3.5s as well. You can see here all the list of cars it goes to. But that's just a quick exploded view of how it goes and all the torque specs and everything. So, okay, pause it, go for it. Yeah, there's some detailed instructions in here, but it's nothing fancy, you know. First thing we're going to do is we're going to drain the coolant because we're going to be pulling the water pump. There's your little access cover right here, and let's see. There we go. If you look up here, there's a little valve. You can barely see the edge of it, right there where my shadow is, right above that little lip there. So you just reach up through this hole here, and loosen that up. I use a little pair of pliers. Be careful, it's plastic. All right. Since we got the coolant draining, we're going to start working on some other stuff here. You can see back here, there's our tensioner, okay. We got our plastic covers up here. We're going to have to pull the harmonic balancer. These are a real pain. You can buy a special 50 millimeter hex tool that holds the crank pulley for you. So what I use on these is a super thick-walled socket. These are made just for crank damper pulleys. These fit over the bolt, but since they have such a big mass, there's so much more mass hitting that bolt. I've never had a Honda crank pulley bolt that I couldn't get with these. These ones are made by OEM specifically. Comes in a set. They work wonders. Before I got these, I really struggled because these are notoriously difficult, especially if they've never been opened before, which I don't think this one has. It's got a lot of miles, but I think we're all original here. So with this socket, you can always get these crank pulley bolts off with an impact gun pretty easily. If you're doing it by hand, you're going to be struggling a lot. If you do buy the tool, what you need to do is set it up so that it braces against the frame somewhere, so that you can put all the force onto that nut. You're not going to be able to hold the tool and loosen the nut at the same time. So, okay, on these tensioners here, okay, we got a dual pulley tensioner system. Let's see if it'll focus again. There we go. But you can see right there where my shadow is, there's a little hex head, okay, and you have to push against this tensioner counterclockwise to release the tension that goes through the tensioner assembly. It's two pulleys, okay, so it pulls both ways when it's released. That looks like I'll say 19. Let's see. Yeah, that's a 19 on there. So you want to rotate that counterclockwise slowly, because this has oil in it. It's kind of like a timing tensioner. You just have to compress it slowly, get your belt off, and then let it release carefully. Sometimes these have blown apart. That happens once in a while. That means it's just worn and needs to be replaced. Alright, so back from the top here, we've only removed our engine cover, a couple little twist connectors from the front. Anyways, we're going to pull our belt. We're going to remove the power steering, but not any of the lines. We're going to slide our reservoir up so that we can move it around a little bit. The power steering pump, just unbolt it, and I just set it right on top of the engine pretty much. And then it's out of the way enough. The other thing we have to do is remove this front cover back here. Okay, it's a little tight back here. Sometimes what I'll do is I'll loosen this whole harness retainer, just on the front side, so I can lift up a little bit and get back underneath this harness here because it's a little tight. And then I remove the clip here, so I just have more wiggle room with it. So once we get the belt and the power steering pump off, we can start getting to our front cover and aligning our marks. Alright, so on the front of this engine, we've got the belt off. Okay, we've got that little 19mm stub there. There's also one on the top if you want to try to do it from the top side. I usually don't. We now have to pull the tensioner assembly out of the way because you can see the tensioner assembly goes over the front cover there. Alright, so to do that, we're just going to pull this one bolt out here on this lower pulley on the tensioner. Then we're going to come down here and we're going to pull this lower bolt on the tensioner damper, auto adjuster, whatever you want to call it. Okay, so once we get that out of the way, first I'm going to pull my crank pulley so I have a little more room to work in there, because this has to come off anyway next. So we're going to go ahead and work our magic with our crank damper socket. Alright, so we're going to show you how easy this crank socket works. Now I haven't done anything to this yet, so we'll see what happens. And that's a crank pulley on a Honda. No problem. Okay, so when I take the pulley off, I always go back in with the bolt so I can rotate the engine. And I just use a simple big hex nut from this little axle nut. But I just want to make sure that it sits square on the edge of the snout of the crank there, so I don't deform it in any way. And then I just snug this down. And I make sure that it's centered. Okay. Alright, that looks real nice. Then I just take my gun and I just give it a little quick smack. That keeps everything in place for me, and then I'll be able to remove my cover without any obstruction there. And then I can rotate the engine once I get the cover off and see where I'm at. How's Ron today?
He's looking brighter now that I'm talking to you, Josh.
All right. How's Ron today?
He's looking brighter now that I'm talking to you, Josh.
All right. All right. So here's the tensioner assembly. Okay. You can see you have the nub up top, the nub up down below, the tensioner assembly, tensioner itself. So you can replace the tensioner without replacing the pulley assembly. We have this 112mm bolt here on the bottom, and then we have this bolt that goes right through the middle pulley. That's a 17mm. Okay, it's kind of long, but if you have the crank pulley out of the way, it's no issue to get it out whatsoever. All right, so from here we're just going to go around and take all these cover bolts out. They're shouldered. They're all the same. I think there's one that's longer. I think the middle one or something. Maybe that was just the older versions. I'm not sure. Anyways, we take all the lower bolts out and then we go up top. You can get a couple of them from down here. You can see that one way up there. Okay, so that's for the upper cover right there. So you get those from down below. It makes it a little easier once you go up top. Okay, got the power steering loose. Okay, I got the reservoir unclipped. You just push this little metal dealio back and it slides right out. But back here, okay, if you follow the line, there's a little clip way down there. Okay, so if you pull that clip, you'll have plenty of room to move this reservoir around and get it out of the way of your timing area where you're going to be working. It should look something like that. You know, I pulled it up out of the way. Just be careful of this plug here and this intake manifold runner tuner. And then that gives you access to all the timing stuff here. So you can see I've loosened that clip, okay? And then I've also loosened the air conditioning line, so I can pull it back away from the engine just a little bit, just up over the bracket it's bolted. I also did the one in back here. Yeah, I did this one way back here too, just in case. It doesn't look like it moved, but anyways, that gives me enough room to get the power steering pump out of the way. This return line fitting is plastic, be careful. And then I just got my reservoir just kind of hanging out over here. If it's overfilled, it may leak a little bit, so we may need to suck that down. But now we got access to all of our cover bolts, and we're going to be able to pull all the covers off momentarily. So we got our mic marks all lined up there. You can see that. We got the arrows there, one on the cog, one on the oil pump cover, lined up perfectly. My marks lined up top. If you're off on the top, you'll need to go one full rotation. So it's 2 revolutions of the crank for 1 revolution of the camshaft. So if you're off, just go 1 more revolution and you should line up. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to pull this tensioner out of the way. We just got 2 10mm bolts, and then our belt will be loose. Some people like to use holders up on there on the camshaft. I typically don't do that because for the number 1 piston, the one that's up, I never really have a problem with these Honda engines because they have them set up to where they pretty much stay in place. You might have to move it a couple teeth when you're putting your belt on, but that's fine. Alright, we're at a point, I got the belt loose, I've got my tensioner pulley out, my tensioner assembly. I've got my idler pulley out, I've got it off the cams, but you can see here it goes through this motor mount. So we're going to have to actually remove this motor mount to get this belt. Okay, so at this point we've gotten the belt back on. We've placed our water pump underneath this motor mount. Once you get that mount bracket out, it's it's 5 bolts, 10mm heads for the water pump. It's an O-ring seal, you just wipe it, reinstall the new one, and reverse. So you can see we've got our tensioner assembly put up there. We've got our idler put on. So we've got the belt around the top. You can see those little notches there on the cover, on the back side of the cover, that hold the belt into the cogs on the pulley. It's on both sides. I stuck a pair of vice grips up there, real gentle, just to make sure it stays in place. The belt between the 2 cams is tight, it's snug. I had to pop it into the teeth to get it to go in. So I know that my top side is nice and snug. Okay. So over here, I'm going to take this one and we're going to try and start it on our pulley here. Okay. I'm off just a little bit. So I'm going to back the crank off just a hair. Okay, so I'm just going to go back just a little bit, 1 tooth. Just like that. Okay. So that gives me the room I need to start my belt there. Okay. So that gives me the room to start my belt in the teeth. Okay, and then I just work it around. Just like so.
Yeah, there ain't no leaks or anything underneath there.
Okay.
So who knows what he was smelling. I mean, I haven't had that cabin filter changed in, well, it's a 2019, probably since 2019.
Okay.
So I went ahead and got him a filter over there. What is that we use? CarQuest?
Yeah.
Anyway.
Okay, so I've got it worked around the crankshaft. Now, you see I'm off a tooth on my timing there. So I'm just gonna line myself back up. Okay, now let's pull this side tight. Okay. Now all we have to do is install our tensioner. Okay. Let's see how that goes. All right. And you can see our belt is held in by those little notches. I just didn't trust the front one because that's where I'm putting tension on. So everything looks like it's lined up properly. I'm going to install the tensioner and we'll see how it is. Okay, before I release my tensioner, I always like to come in here and double check, that nothing's moved. All right, that looks like it's perfect alignment there. Okay. See that we're good alignment there. On this one back here, let's see, this one's harder to see. You can see my green mark. Wires in the way. There we go. So you can see there that from the correct angle, it's in alignment. It's difficult to see. It's probably a little better angle. So you just want to double check that your cams are in the proper alignment before you release that tensioner, because otherwise you have to compress it and start all over. My belt between the cams is very tight. Okay. Okay, so from the bottom side, I'm double checking that my arrows are lined up, and they are. So when you back the crank off, just one tooth to set the timing belt. It makes everything much easier. Okay, so when you pull that side tight, you can see this side is nice and tight. Okay, and then that leaves all the slack over here. So I double checked my marks up top. Everything looks good. I'm gonna go ahead and pull my pin. There we go. It's just like a grenade. Get a little twist. Ah, there she goes. Okay. Everything looks really good there. So now we've got that hydraulic tension on that slack side now. Okay. Now at this point you want to rotate the engine, the crankshaft 2 times. Okay, and this will bring everything back into alignment. You double check your marks and make sure everything's good. If you do not do that double rotation and you don't double check it and something happens, you are going to be kicking yourself. So it's worth the time to just spend a couple minutes and spin the engine over, double check your marks. At the crank, you're going to spin it over 2 times and then double check up top at the crank, at the cams, and everything should line right up again. So at that point, if everything lines up again, you're good to go, and you can start putting the covers on and put everything right back together, and you should be good.